Good afternoon from Italy. Thank you very much, and please accept my best personal compliments to Philip, who is a super worker, and he really, managed to organize such a complex conference because, we have different times, we have different backgrounds, and I believe you are now totally ready for the Indian Ocean because you have done such a strong effort. Yes, today I would like to leave for this occasion my let's say, classical themes of my research on the history of the littorals, and talk about something that I have been, I saw that along this morning, many presenters, they just talk about without reflecting maybe what we could do more today. And my proposal of this paper, which is not really a paper to do today, is thinking about new methodological approaches with regards to the Indian Ocean, because we have been hearing, many of you, of course, have this big trouble of the sources. So how about reflecting about sources? I just wrote the day before yesterday 6 pages, which I thought I wanted to read, but I know that all of you are super tired, and we have been experiencing 2.5 years of online lessons, which is something that is unbelievably boring, and you really pray that it's going to end as soon as possible. Also, I spent a terrible day today because my iPhone was broken. I went to the center, I came back. Here is already hot weather, and I don't think we want to live such an experience that is going to be, it looks like endless. The Indian Ocean has a multidisciplinary approach, has a multi-language approach, has a multi-religious approach since, as we all read in many books, immemorial times. Because when you read immemorial times, most of the cases, you don't know when exactly was. So you just write immemorial times because you don't know. And I presented a research project regarding these new methodological approaches to the application that we have been offered by European Union this year for Italy, which is on the paper very much generous because it's going to be something like 280 billions euros. So it's huge, but it's almost impossible to be accepted to win these applications, as we know. So we tried our best. In the meantime, I think all of us have to deal with a new tools of research, which is going to be ChatGPT. So what I did was making a simulation. I don't know if you did try yourself and write history of Indian Ocean slavery inside ChatGPT. And I swear you, this is the most interesting answer that gives you the way to rereading our way of perceiving and of studying sources. Because you have traditionally archaeology, Archaeology is one of the best sources to understand the Indian Ocean. We were last December in Sharjah with Professor Campbell and Stefan Pradin, who is one of the best archaeologists that are working on East Africa and also on the Gulf area. He explained about the necessity to reread the role of the archaeological discoveries. For example, think about the Shirazi. Think about the Persian percentage of presence on East African coast. Think about the idea to look like somebody else, to claim an Arab origin, to claim a Persian origin, to say we are all Arabs, and to use even archaeological sources in order to transform your status from one level to the other one. If you work with new digitalization, with new methodological research, with this ChatGPT, what comes out? It's unbelievable. So you think to have a huge development in your studies, in your research, but it's not, because you're going to go back to the very beginning, because now I'm going to read what is going to answer. Also because you know that this artificial intelligence always want to please you. In any way he or she, we don't know. We don't want to know. It wants always to answer. So the answer is, the history of slavery in the Indian Ocean is a complex and extensive one, spanning several centuries. Slavery in the region can be traced back to ancient times and continue well into the 20th century. The Indian Ocean served as a major hub for the slave trade, involving various groups and societies over different periods. Here is an overview of the history of slavery in the Indian Ocean. So you realize the danger of this new methodological approach, the slippering of this affirmation, and then it gives you an overview, geographical overview, super superficial. But then there is something that I believe it could be interesting to reflect together today, which is this one: abolition. An end of the Indian Ocean slave trade. The abolition of slavery in the 19th century gradually led to the decline of the Indian Ocean slave trade, which is not true always and everywhere. British-led efforts to suppress the slave trade, along with changing economic and political dynamics, contributed to its eventual end. The abolition of slavery was a gradual process, and it took several decades for it to be fully abolished in the various regions of the Indian Ocean. So now, if a scholar, if a student goes to ChatGPT, which is something that everybody are addicted to it, I suppose it, I don't know, my students for sure, and write such a question, and this is the answer, the result is what we have been trying probably all our academic lives to avoid, that is the Eurocentric approach. Because you have to be aware, for example, of Professor William Gervais Clarence Smith, who did publish many years ago a very important book about the role of the Muslim scholars inside Islam, who fought against slave trade and fought against slavery in their own countries and in and along the shores of the Indian Ocean. That is This is not something merely confined to the role of Great Britain. This is not a process that has to be identified as something very positive, conducted by the public opinion, by William Wilberforce, by Jane Austen, because we have sources, we have archaeological proofs, we have many ways of rereading and reinterpreting what has been now absolutely proved that is not going to be taken into consideration. And it's going to be the mainstream because the majority of the people throughout the world will consult this source, I believe. I mean, I'm afraid. So the idea that we have been, I mean, so focused on a part of the world where so many people have no voice, have no way of transmitting their memories. So we go into another huge topic, which is the conflict or the coexistence between oral memory and written sources. So with regards to written sources in Europe, you just need a telegram in order to cancel all oral memories, because it's just a small written source enough to cancel everything that has been built in terms of oral memory. This is the European and the Eurocentric approach. And what is going to happen, I'm sure you're aware of this, is that ChatGPT has no access to the database, has no access to JSTOR, because you have to pay for that. You have to pay a subscription. I mean, my university, which is a private one in Milan, spends 1 million euros per year for the library. So we pay journals of JSTOR, not all of them, of course, because they are super expensive, but then our students have access directly to the database. But this is something the majority of people don't do because they don't care, because it takes too long time, because it's, you know, kind of, even if you are a boomer, when you come to the database, you're a boomer inside. Even if you are 20 years old, you become a boomer yourself. And this way of conducting this kind of studies, I believe, if it's not going to be rewritten and rethought, including what has been done as an interdisciplinary approach, as working on the field, and this is another issue. All of us know that it's not possible to understand the Indian Ocean from internet for sure. I mean, could be, but then I don't know about the results. Have you seen Felicitas Becker this morning? She has a huge knowledge, and the majority of her sources are coming from her fieldwork. I mean, I'm sure about that. I have been working many, many years in Pakistan, which is a country I know very well, to the border with Afghanistan and along the coast. And I have been studying the movement of these Asian groups that are the Baluchis. And then I have been working in Oman, and I have been working on East Africa. And I saw these huge movements among two littorals. And my studies, to my total surprise, also because you have to consider that in my country, nobody cares about this, Indian Ocean, nobody. They just even, they just don't care. They don't know how to deal with inside political science courses. It's something that looks like, boring ladies in the center of Milan, spoiled kids, something like that. And they don't realize how huge is the importance, even in geostrategic terms, of this region. And then these movements gave life to an interdisciplinary research that has been conducted by Professor Morse at the Louis Pasteur Institute in Paris about the role of the migration movements of Asian communities to East Africa, and most of all, about the role of DNA in genetics research about malaria, and also about blood sicknesses. So they discovered that the resistance to malaria is much higher within Asian groups inside the East African region, from Dar es Salaam, Bagamoyo to the Central Lake region, because you have this mixed relationship. This is something that is a result of a lifetime research, of the fieldwork research, of the awareness of the necessity to have both perspectives, of the necessity of taking into consideration more than one source, and also of the strong effort that us as Europeans must do at all costs to free ourselves, to decolonize our mind, which is something, honestly, can I tell you, almost impossible. I mean, the colonization is something that is endless. And it's not only endless. With this ChatGPT simulation, it's coming back. It's going to come back, it's going to rule, it's going to influence all future studies. So I'm not going to talk until tomorrow, because I know that it's going to be super boring. But then my wishful thinking is simply one word, probably, that is going to be resist. Resist in terms of methodology, awareness, in terms of forcing the people who are working with us as PhD students, as young scholars, as our students in the courses, to work on the database, to work with, of course, ChatGPT, which is something that is going to cancel so many jobs, probably is going to be a very dangerous tool. And also to use all these new tools with this kind of awareness that this affirmation that I just read before is absolutely partial, is absolutely not explaining such a huge region. Okay? So thank you very much, and sorry about this, because, you know, when you organize the day, the time, the title, the panel, and everything, it passes such a long time. So you never know how you feel that day. So the thing is that you will never know. So not every day is the same, in good and in bad. So you don't know if you can just become very professional, or you're in such a desperate situation that you just need to talk about your feelings. So I'm sorry about that.